this fantasy is so nasty. You see this adorable video? This is something I would love to watch. And actually, the music this kid is dancing to is a kind of music that kind of brings me back to me when, well, brings me back to music that we used to listen when I was younger, in my home country. And in my head, they try to manipulate me to accept these things as if it's naturally happening. Because what they did is, before I watched this thing, they was like stimulating me over some nothingness. I'm like, what? Some woman's feet? It's just crazy. It was so bad. And it's like, really? Like, first of all, like, but I don't care, like, whatever. And the reason why they do the stimulation is because I'm going to end up watching this video because it was on somebody's stories. And somebody's story that I don't expect to see this. And I see this, and actually, honestly, it could have been worse. They could have done some more stimulations. But this is like, it's like, it's sad because I would watch this like over and over. This little adorable little girl dancing to this, like, it's just, but turn into something else in my brain and try to force me to experience disturbing reaction toward this kid, this baby. And it's just nasty. And they try to force me to have like ways of imagining it in a sexual way. It's so nasty. In my brain, they try to find ways. It's like, oh, but imagine, like, so disgusting. But that's what they do. It's so disgusting. Oh. But the reason why I keep bringing up what they do to me is because I want to continuously bring the pattern of what they do to me. I know that this is what they force me to experience. This is what's going to happen every time. I saw this like, oh, and it's sad because I wanted to hear what kind of music this kid was dancing to, and I'm like looking on the side and listening to the music, and it's like, okay, I can see a little bit blur, but I'm just trying to listen to the music. And they do this thing where they press my tongue against my teeth, my bottom teeth, and it's like, you see, and that's proof. That's the, and I know that when I make these videos, it's hard to understand what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, as a target individual, things like that, wholesome videos like that, beautiful, not even beautiful, sorry, this is forced speech. Like I said before, forced speech is when they want me to say something that I don't mean to say. This wholesome, adorable video of this baby dancing just in this way, it's just turn into something else. And then I try to be like, no, this is how you see it when you're a kid. You feel this sensation. You feel, it's like, no, I will not. You are making me feel this thing today, and I'm not a kid. I'm an adult. I'm not a child. So even that doesn't make sense. But they do these ways of forcing men and women to feel reactions that are pedophilia centric. And it's that. These bottom feeders that you see around, you are forced to experience things like that. I can't do nothing about this. It's the way they make me experience things. And as a target individual, you are forced to experience things like that. And as you can hear in the testimonials, this is what they make people experience. And then you have people around you, living around you, doing whatever they need to do to try to get you to accept this. They try to make you to accept these pedophilia things as if it's happening to you naturally. And they will say whatever they need to say. I was like, no, it's you when you were a kid. Oh, remember what you did as a kid. It's, what do you mean? I'm a grown man. And two, I never even thought like that, even when I was a child. But what you guys do systematically, consistently, it's been forcing men and women to think about kids in these sexual ways, forcing them to have sexual stimulation and actually molest children using this technology. Babies as young as her being tortured by this low life that you see around, sexually torturing them. This is why I bring this up over and over, because they do horrible things to people. In me, they tell me how they're going to arrest me because they're going to frame me. I was like, listen, do your nasty things. But before that, I'm just thankful to God that I got the chance to see you guys for what you guys are. And I've warned you, you will be reimbursed. You are trash and pedophiles. So my target individuals, do not subscribe to these things.
Ms. Catherine Nestor.
My name is Catherine Nestor, and I'm from Pennsylvania. This commission has spoken of a long history of abuse of the human research subject. Although no one mentioned MKUltra today, President Clinton recently apologized for this. My young child and I have been used as non-consensual test subjects. We have been subjected to COINTELPRO-like stalking, remote neural monitoring, and electromagnetic torture, resulting in psychological and physical damage. And I won't go into the details of that because I have 4 pages written in here that is very similar to Connie's testimony. Please do not wait 70 years to investigate this. I ask Dr. Amy Gutman to begin today. There is new work for the Commission for Human Subject Protection on our shores. And please give us a dramatic response, Susan, and please give us a congressional hearing.
They're trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophilia. It's disgusting, They take this whole thing into account so much and make it so dramatic. It is dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophilia. It's disgusting things. You saw where I was going with that first word. Disgusting things that I don't even want to talk about because it makes me sick. I don't even like those words in my mind. But it is what it is. So I have no choice now but to acknowledge that there are people in my surroundings or whatever they're doing. I don't know how they do it. I don't care. I don't know if it's through weapons. I don't know. I don't care.
I can be free from this torture. Every day has been a miracle of survival. I also experience what is referred to as malodorance. This is the alteration of the smell sensation so that I am often made to smell various things, including smoke, burning, dirty diaper, or baby powder, which they sometimes combine with the pedophilia type of torture, including the threat of planted dreams and videos in my closed eyes.
The targets were forced to perform homosexual acts on each other against their will and religion in order not to be beaten or killed. This is a common breakdown tactic of belief systems and the human will. In no-touch torture, the techniques are more psychologically specialized for each target. Most common examples include homosexual targets that are forced with voices that are derogatory to their lifestyle and similar. The targets were forced to perform homosexual acts on each other against their will and religion in order not to be beaten or killed. This is a common breakdown tactic of belief systems and the human will. In no-touch torture, the techniques are more psychologically specialized for each target. Most common examples include homosexual targets that are forced with voices that are derogatory to their lifestyle and similar mental images. Almost all targets are forced to view child pornography in their minds. And vice versa is true, that
I am currently a speech-language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I am currently a speech-language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all of my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic. And they used her to threaten the most torture in me as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her, as she usually behaved very well during her therapy sessions and had been making incredible progress on all of her therapy goals. This was used to threaten extreme torture on me, making me scream and cry, etc. They would make the kids act out the kinds of torture that would later be done on me. For example, they would also sometimes make her bite her hand, threatening to make me bite my hands, as they often do. One day, she had a large, severe bite mark on her arm. She has also grabbed her crotch, saying, "Ow," and this was used to threaten me with severe sexual torture. One day I also observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months straight, and that's also when they made it worse when I eat. Then I also work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister who also has Down syndrome. I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, "ow." I observed this at least on 1 or 2 occasions for each of them during their separate sessions. During one session, I observed one of my 3-year-old clients suddenly grab his crotch and lean forward in his chair. And then he made a frightening grimace of severe pain. I asked him what was wrong and if he needed to use the restroom, but he said no to having to use the restroom and was not able to verbalize anything more due to his language delay. He looked puzzled and bewildered. Even though I had stated that it was time to do more work right before this incident, I quickly just let him play another game, and he quickly returned to his joyful, happy self again. In other sessions, he has also grabbed his crotch and said, "ow," while looking up at me. The nature of the torture I have been experiencing has been highly sexual in nature and highly perverted, involving many combinations of sensory and motor manipulation of my mind and body and of the people around me. This includes many different types of zaps to varying degrees to the genitals, butt, anus, and the entire pelvic area. This also includes many kinds of movements, such as the rocking, swaying, jolting, vibrating, and shaking of my entire body or various body parts, specifically in a sexual way. The severe vibration is a highly noxious stimuli and is very intolerable. They sometimes do pulses or throbbing sensations on the genitals too, etc. There are also body movements such as rocking my pelvic area back and forth, repeated rubbing sensations, the sensation of something going up my crotch and in and out, etc. They also often force vaginal discharges and zap my genitals at the same time. These sexual assaults are present throughout the day, every day, and anytime I am awakened at night, every night. They range from mild to extreme, but usually involve daily and nightly continuous assaults for the past 3 years now. When severe, the zaps to the genitals feel as though someone is electrocuting my genitals repeatedly. I also often see highly disturbing pornographic images and videos, including highly disturbing pedophilia type of images and videos when I close my eyes.
Occasion, I was told I was going to be shot in the face, and it was an older guy. He was like really, really disgruntled and pissed off. Yeah, you're going to get shot in the face. You know, sound like an angry ass old person. You know, then a couple of days later, a female said the same thing. Don't get shot. Occasion, I was told I was going to be shot in the face, and it was an older guy. He was like really, really disgruntled and pissed off. Yeah, you're going to get shot in the face. You know, sound like an angry ass old person. You know, then a couple of days later, a female said the same thing. Don't get shot in the face. You know, stupid shit like that. But what I really noticed is with the Voice of Skull, it's a bunch of females. You know, and I'm like, bro, really? You're not a woman. What real woman would stalk another female or sit back and allow that to go on? You really think they think it's nothing wrong with them? Basically, you know, they call me retarded bitch and all of this here, but I was top of my class in everything that I did. You know, every class I took, I excelled academically. So
8 billion brains on the planet, potentially. Read them. Marines. Underwater.
How do you explain this is happening to Len? How do you rationalize
him in private? Hold on.
Okay, yeah.
Can I talk? Here's how I do my studies, and I wanted to find the commonalities, but I have to throw away the ones I'm uncertain about that are true targets. Maybe there's natural schizophrenia, there's a whole bunch of chemical imbalances,
Right.
etc.
Right.
These weapons can actually induce and mimic all those diseases and effects. But the conversations, the scripts they're called, are always the same. I've heard them all. They're slightly tailored for each individual, but they're scripts. And they're meant to confuse, the very derogatory. That's just typical breakdown. If you've ever been to boot camp, you're a worm until you're part of the team. And why would you want to break down the ego of that person? To rebuild it. So this gets into creating Manchurian candidates, split personality spies, and information couriers, people that will carry the V2K. So they'll say, we're the Russian government, we're the Chinese government, we're evil aliens, we're Satan's, satanic ritual abuse. And I've heard all the stories. One guy believed it was some 14-year-old kid with an Xbox that lived next door. The trickery really is that great when you're under hypnosis that people will believe something other than a massive government could do this. And so anyway, my interview with Len, he very well described a typical breakdown script that's used on almost all the TI victims. TI stands for targeted individuals. Some of them are pretty crazy. They have names like Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz, and those are the confusion tactics. And when they're breaking down the ego of the human through all the pains and tortures and the verbal breakdown, these are typical CIA torture scripts. I mean, Kubark manual. And they do good cop, bad cop interrogation called Jeff and Mutt. And they go right through the list, right? Just textbook. So whoever the handlers are on the other side of this synthetic telepathy, they're following the handbook.
This is Jeremy Radlow. I'm here to tell you that non-consensual human experimentation is happening in the United States today. I've been the subject of this experimentation for more than 5 years. Calling these activities experimentation is truthful but possibly distracting. I think the criteria governing the selection of experimentees will prove to be a much bigger scandal than the experimentation itself. The psychological torture protocol that's part of the so-called experimentation includes, but is not limited to, the use of non-lethal weapons and mind-invasive technology. Sleep deprivation, pain center stimulation, and worse are used against subjects. While some experimentees have found foreign objects in their bodies suggesting implantation, most have not. Receiverless mind-invasive technology has been demonstrated under laboratory conditions, but the most likely explanation is that experimentees are implanted with foreign objects either too small to appear on commercially available scanning equipment or designed to be indistinguishable from the surrounding tissue. These activities are highly deceptive, use clandestine technology, and have the fingerprints of the CIA all over them. It's unreasonable to expect isolated individuals receiving this treatment to furnish proof. A thorough investigation is warranted.
That's the thing. The rest of the cases, they were sent back to the CIA to handle them internally.
Well, don't worry, Stephen. I think a few of them were fired.
Yeah, well, the rest that's the thing. The rest of the cases, they were sent back to the CIA to handle them internally, whatever the hell that.
Where do you
Think
think
about
you
that.
work?
CIA.
That must mean there is such a lack of fearing any sort of accountability. For crying out loud, while on assignment, 1,400? You must have not been doing any job.
Well, even if you had to look at it to make sure you knew what it was, don't you just need to look at one?
Right.
You're like, I better check the other 1,399
double-checking.
just to be safe.
Yes, I better
Each
check the other
file.
1,300 labeled tax things.
Unbelievable.
Oh my goodness.
And the guy with the 6-year-old?
Disgusting.
Twice.
Yeah, twice.
Twice with the 6-year-old.
So and here's the scariest part. Out of the 10 instances that are described in the report, only one person was ever charged with anything.
Yeah.
With anything. Comment below. Do you guys know this story? This should be catnip for the media, right? Think about it. You've got this lewd behavior. You've got corruption at the highest levels of government, right? Aaron Brockovich, something about fake tits and tap water.
Yeah.
The CIA raping children and sexually assaulting children, and they're not being prosecuted? Where are you?
Had sexual contact with a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. He was simply fired. One employee purchased sexually explicit videos of young girls filmed by their mothers. He resigned. One employee estimated that he had viewed up to 1,400 sexually abusive images of children while on agency assignments. Not sure what actions, if any, were taken by
able to impose any information on the brain of a person, presumably by some kind of way. What I said, playing with my dog. Now that attacks continue. What I said, playing with my dog. Now that attacks continue, I don't let them get me. Today they continue with the programming of perversion, but this time they are aiming in the use. People, better said young people, also children and homosexuals. When I aggravated them I usually called demeaning names, and one of them is referring to homosexuals. For me all of the slaves are misfits, society haters, scumbags, etc. No, I don't have anything personal against them, homosexuals, but as my way to aggravate the slaves, and since they love to use children for the torture and stalking, street theater etc. Especially teenagers for the stalking at close range with an attitude, they are using them during my sleep in the perversion program, and so you can imagine what the slaves of torture are pretending to do to me. In the last days, as today September 9th, 07, anything I do, either watching TV or reading of whatever I'm doing, they brush me sort of say, I feel like I'm aroused all day and I feel the palpitations in my genitals, for